So a couple of mornings ago, about 8 o'clock in the morning, it was already 30 degrees C. I was sitting close to a bush on this park bench flying my Bug 6 for the first time in quite a while, and I couldn't quite recall why I hadn't. So this is the footage from the DVR that's built into the camera and transmitter. It's a standard C5830 module. And the first thing I noticed that through my goggles, the Eachine VR 006, I was only getting a black and white image. And then I remembered that this particular camera only has a single band C, and 8 frequencies to choose from. So I cycled through all 8 of them and got the odd flicker of colour, but basically still a black and white image. So this is the actual recording from the DVR. And the other thing I noticed from this is severe frame drop, and I've noticed that even when I've had a very high quality card in it. So I suddenly remembered why I fell out of love with this particular unit. So I was flying, and the thing, I'm so used to now flying with a Eachine TX03 or similar variety of other cameras on whoops that I found it quite difficult to figure out where I was from the air just looking around at this black and white image. So I drifted back over the tennis club, the cricket club pavilion you can see there, and realised that yes, I'm sitting just off to one side of it. So this allowed me to line it up to come in for a landing. So this time of morning there's a lot of dog walkers out, there's kids going to school, so I basically just wanted to bring it back to land it fairly close to me. But the actual bird, the Bug 6 flies beautifully, and in fact it's got plenty of power, so I've hung a higher quality camera underneath it and got some quite good footage. But in terms of flying FPV, I suddenly realised it's a total waste of time. So as I was flying around thinking about this and thinking how good the TX03s are, and in fact I've now got a spare one because I've put a lighter all-in-one camera on one of my whoops, I had an idea for a conversion. It's a pity in a way. The resolution of the camera is quite good when it works well, but it can't tolerate frame dropping or the lack of reliability. Also, the ADI files I typically have to convert to some other format before they'll run through smoothly, otherwise they seem to have an error and stop partway through playback. So I've totally fallen out of love with the C5830 camera goes, and I far prefer something that gives me 40 to 48 combinations to choose from when it comes to bands and channels. And also listening to the racket of the recording, there's no particular point in being able to record on one of these cameras. So back home it was just 3 screws to take the camera out, and I saw that there were 3 wires leading in, so you got the power, the earth, and one other which is a control cable, because you can turn the camera off and on in flight or on the ground from the controller, which is not a particularly useful feature. I'm quite happy with the camera that goes on when you turn the power on. So what I've done, I soldered the wires together, the earth and the active, and just left the yellow one to flap in the breeze, and that way I could use the same plug into the same socket, just lining up the earth and the power. So powered the thing up. I could see that the camera's getting its feed, and I put on my preferred frequency, band F, and about channel 5 I believe it is, 5820 from memory, and I've also got low power at the moment until I get a better feel for it. And that cloverleaf of course gives me fantastic range, as I found out by doing something similar to a Bug 3. So putting the cover back on, I've also used just 2-sided tape to hold it in place. The actual clearance between the props and the cloverleaf is not really good enough, and I was getting the odd ping as you'll hear during the test flight. So the idea of the test flight was just to make darn sure that there was no interference when the motor powered up. Not that I expected any, because I'm using exactly the same power source as the original C5830 camera was getting. So here we go up in the air. And as I mentioned, that clicking noise is the props occasionally twinging on the cloverleaf. Didn't do any damage, and it didn't even seem to do much to the image, but that's something I'll sort out when I use a cable tie to fasten it permanently in position. But I'm very pleased with the vision, nice clear colour vision in my goggles, because I'm amazed just how much colour cues help to tell you where you are, particularly when you're getting up really high. So it's just a quick flight at home with this little drone, just to make sure that everything is working the way it should, because it's still hot as hell and it's not really fun trying to fly using goggles that don't have a fan. So I'm patiently waiting for my next pair of expensive goggles to arrive, and I'll say more about them when they do. So just a bit of a fly around, and I'm just filming this. I'm filming the screen that came with the Bug 6 using a camera, so it's pretty ordinary substitute for a DVR, but I'm not interested in having a DVR mounted on a drone if it interferes with the latency at all. I'd far rather record it. In fact, with the new goggles I'll be able to record through the goggles and hopefully get a better image. So there we go, one changeover completed. Bye.